Casey, welcome to the Friday Habit.
Hello.
Welcome to the Friday Habit with Mark Labriola and Benjamin Manley. The Friday Habit is for small business owners, freelancers, and creatives who are ready to take their business to the next level. Join us as we discover how to apply the strategies we learn to grow our businesses, make more money, and live every day like it's Friday. And welcome back to another Friday Habit. Man, we're starting this, we're kicking the weekend off hot. Ben's back in town. Ben, why don't you just tell everybody what you're doing? Just real quick, just a flyover, just a 30,000 foot view so that when you're here and you're not here and all that stuff will make sense.
Yeah. Sounds good. Well, I am going on a trip for 1 year around the world with my family. So we are first going to Mexico, then the Netherlands, then Ireland, and then we don't know where. So the next couple months are planned out, but after that, the world is pretty open. We're doing it during the school year for the kids, so they're doing remote school and stuff like that.
Boom.
And so I may not be on some episodes. I'm going to try to make the time zones work out, but hopefully I'll be on here most of the time. But if I'm not here, it's not because I don't want to be. It's because I have no internet.
That's right. You're in the jungles of Taniqua. I don't even know if that's a place, but
It's
anyways.
just the jungles of London. Oh, wait. No,
Yeah.
that's not right.
I don't know. Okay. Well, hey, today we got a great guest. Casey Stubbs is on with us. He's an entrepreneur, a business owner. He's just anything he touches turns to gold. And so we have a lot of knowledge to learn from him today about all sorts of things, managing teams, growing a business, marketing funnels, the gambit. So Casey, welcome to the Friday Habit.
Thanks, Ben and Mark. So Ben, I got to ask, how many kids are you taking with are in your family?
6. He's Catholic.
No, that's not true. No, that's true. Taking 2, so fairly manageable. We decided, didn't want to get outnumbered. So, we got 2 kids. One is 14 and one is about to turn 12. Yeah.
Perfect age for a around the world trip, I think.
Have you done something like that before?
I hope so.
No, I live in Pennsylvania, and my family's from Oregon. So every year we take about a 1 month or 1.5 month trip. We get all the kids in the car. We drive across the country from PA to Oregon. We've been in all 50 states. Well, no, all 48.
Whoa.
We have not been to Hawaii or Alaska.
Okay.
Wow.
But for me, it's fun, but challenging because I have 9 kids.
Whoa! Yeah, that's at Pennsylvania.
You're
He's like Lancaster. He's like churning butter out there with the family, and they're going to farmers
We don't live
markets.
far from Lancaster, so
Okay.
we like to go and visit the Amish country.
So what do we got? Like a 15-passenger van or something like that? Like,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I got it.
oh
I
my
got
Yeah. So listen, if you could do that, really, you could do anything. What's the age?
that's
What's
right.
the age span of all your kids?
Well, my older ones aren't doing it with us anymore. They're
Okay.
26 now.
They're like,
but,
we're out, Dad. We
yeah.
had our time.
Yeah, I was actually on another podcast, and the host was like, she's like, yeah, I was in a family of 9 also, and it was hell. I was like, yeah, okay.
You know, my best friend is one of 6, and his wife is one of 8, and they're from Pennsylvania. They're actually from Lancaster, actually. And but it's funny because they eat so fast, and I'm like, why do you guys eat so fast? But it was like one of those things where it's like, man, if you didn't eat fast and get seconds, you weren't getting seconds.
You know what? That's the truth. The food goes quick.
That's right. That's right.
Well, cool, man. Well, so how have you been able to afford all these children? What business strategies have brought you to success?
Multiple streams of income.
Okay,
and that's
good.
The cool thing is not only do I have the funds to be able to do it, which is very expensive, but I also have the time. And just being able to work online has been a game changer. I started my business in 2009. I was actually in construction. And in 2008, the economy went south. There was not a lot of work. And so I couldn't find anything in construction business, so I thought I'd give it a shot online, see what happened. And so I started my website, and it took off. And so I was on unemployment for about 6 months, but then by the time my unemployment ran out, I was making an actual enough money that I didn't have to ever go back to unemployment.
So, and what was that business? What was that thing you started?
So the business was a trading educational website where I was writing content about how to find trades in the markets, how to manage trades, how to do mindset, how to do financial planning, and all of that money management good stuff. And so went really well for me.
That's awesome. All right, well, so let's start back a little bit further. Did you grow up in Pennsylvania?
I am actually from Oregon.
Okay, all right. You said your road trip over there. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm actually from Oregon. See, you weren't paying attention.
I know. I apologize. Sometimes I'm thinking, I'm just like a squirrel. Like, you said 9 kids.
Yeah. No, I'm not busting you up. That's good. But yeah, I was originally from Oregon. But when I got there, when I got to PA, I got married, and so that's where I am at now.
Nice. Okay, so you grew up out there, like a big family too.
I have 2 brothers and 1 sister.
Okay, so pretty average milquetoast Brady Bunch kind of,
Yeah, it wasn't too bad.
That's good. And then, so for you, did you kind of go the traditional route, like college, look for a job, work and do that kind of, or did you always kind of have entrepreneurial spirit about you?
You know what? I was born an entrepreneur, Yeah. And I don't know how that happens. I mean, my dad was a pretty crazy dude, right? And so I think that just kind of I took after my dad.
What,
my dad
like Hell's Angel kind of crazy dude?
Not that crazy, but he would be like, I'm quitting my job and starting a business. Or he would be, he worked in Prudhoe Bay up in the most northernest part of Alaska on like the oil rigs, I mean, he just was always doing crazy stuff.
Yeah.
He sold his house and started trading the markets with all the money from the house, and so I just kind of fell right into that. Like I was just a natural born risk taker, and sitting in school for me was like pure hell. Like, I'm like, I can't do this. It was torture.
Isn't that the truth? Like just the whole risk taking thing. That's one of the things I tell a lot of young guys coming up. It's like, you have to be willing to 1, take risks, and then 2, stomach the risks, recently, Ben and I were chatting a little bit before, but we it's like a constant thing of business coming and going and looking for new opportunities and, re-signing clients and doing all this stuff. And man, if you don't have the stomach to wade through some of those turbulent times, it'll just eat you up and spit you out, because it can be hard, especially as you start to grow a business, when having employees and payroll and rents and all these other kind of things.
Yeah, all that stuff you don't know about either,
yeah, exactly.
You don't know about any of that stuff, payroll and how to do it and all that, and just the challenges. I was posting in one of my Telegram channels today, and I was talking about not being afraid, and one guy's like, yeah, well, you got to be, not only can you not be afraid about failing, but you also have to learn the lesson from the first time you failed. And I said, that's why I I just keep going. I'm very hard-headed, so I have to fail about 10 times, before I finally make the changes that I need to make as a human being.
That's interesting.
I call it the maximum pain change method. Once I hit maximum pain, then I finally am willing to change.
Is that a book you're working on? Or
yeah, that sounds like a great book. I was thinking about
writing a book called Failure, with my face on it.
I like that, because it's so true. I've had some.
I might be interested. If I saw that in the bookstore, I'm like, okay,
can I pre-order this?
Yeah, what is this?
Casey, that's your next book right there. I like that. Yeah. But yeah, it is true. There's so many times where I'm like looking in the mirror like, God, what do you want me to learn from this situation? Where am I supposed to grow? Because I know all this is a growth opportunity for, and so it's like, what in this situation? Sometimes it baffles me on just how complex a failure can be. And then it's just like, okay, this is so complex of a failure. Like, I know there's something really good I need to learn within this.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point.
And having kids, 9 kids, and then obviously the market crashing. And then, so when you started your business, what were some of the strategies you used to grow it? Because obviously everyone hears the dream of starting an online business, and especially back in the day, it was a lot more educational, like guru type stuff. Now I feel like a lot of people are moving to e-com and Amazon and online stores and more of a physical drop shipping type product stuff. So back then, what was like your plan to start your business? What was it like? Okay, I have a lot of skills in this area, or know a lot about this, or my dad sold our house and became a multi-billionaire, and I learned all his skills from his trading secrets. So now I'm going to implement this in my business, implement this into my business. But so there's an element of like, okay, you start this thing. It's not like people are just going to start banging down your door to be like, I want to buy your course or like get your information. How do you build the business? What are some of the funnels or email marketing, or what are some of the difficult things that you did over a long period of time that produced results?
Well, that is an awesome question, and it's so simple that it will just blow your mind. And obviously nowadays things are different, so I don't even know if any of this stuff would actually work, but the principle will work. The principle will work. And it was that I found an article, and it was on a website called associateprograms.com, and it was how to make $1,000 a month online. And it had 8 steps. Right.
Okay.
And so I just latched onto that article and I followed the 8 steps. Right. So here's the principle. You find something and then you follow the steps. Most people will get to step 1 and then be like, oh, this isn't working. I'm going to go to something else. And so I followed the 8 steps. And guess what? I was able to make $1,000 a month plus much, much more. And over the course of, I've been doing this for 15 years now, which is amazing. Yeah. I've had a few people along the way say, hey, how did you do this? And so I always point them to that article. And no one's ever actually done it after I showed them how to do it. It's
that's one of the problems with business creatives, and I would say entrepreneurs, is it's hard to focus. Sometimes we have all these ideas and it's like the squirrel syndrome, where it's like you hear about something else, you're like, oh, let me try that. And it's like you never spend enough time focused in on one thing. I'm curious, what were some of those 8 steps that they were telling you to do?
Well, I'm definitely guilty of the whole shiny object thing, because for me, no opportunity is wasted. Like, I want to do it all. I believe I can do everything. So, I'm like the crazy squirrel running around too. So that's one of the skills I've had to learn is focus. But, one of the 8 steps was to learn content, just create content and articles. So I was very consistent with my content writing. And even to this day, that is my number one source of revenue is content from my website, because Google SEO strategies still, even to this day, SEO still works. And so that was one of the big ones. And I didn't even know how to make money, though. That was the thing, is I had no clue. And so I was getting all this traffic, but I had a conversion problem because I didn't know how to turn the traffic into money. And so then a couple ways I did is I got involved in a couple affiliate products, and then somebody reached out to me because I had traffic, and he's like, hey, let's launch a product together. I'm a trader. We can use all my trading techniques, and we'll launch a product. And then what I did was I followed a guru, Jeff Walker. Does the product launch formula. Some of you guys might have heard him. He's pretty big name. Yeah. And I bought his program for $2,000, and for me that was a ton of money.
Oh yeah.
And my partner actually said, hey, let's split it. Let's go ahead and do this. And normally I would never do that. That was outside of my comfort zone, paying for an educational product. Like, I'm just going to learn it on my own. Yeah. But I did it. I followed his instructions. Again, it's following the instructions. I spent $2,000 and I made like $15,000 on my first product launch.
Wow.
And so it immediately paid for itself. And then, obviously I go to Jeff's, this is the difference between other people. I'm not knocking other people. It's just a principle I'm trying to hammer. But I go to the Jeff's live event and I'm talking to all the other entrepreneurs there, all the people that bought the product. But a lot of them were just people that had money. Maybe they had high-paying jobs or whatever. They spent the $2,000. It was nothing for them. But they didn't actually take any actions on the course. And I was like, I got there and I was an instant guru because no one else had made a penny from buying the course.
Yeah. Oh man, it's funny. I know some people who've bought that course, and Amy Porterfield's courses, and There's so
That
many.
was the thing I noticed is they had all the
Yes,
courses.
they had all the courses. And isn't that the truth? It's the same kind of thing just with, I feel like infomercials. I'm pretty sure this 8-minute abs thing probably works if you actually follow the steps to use the 8-minute abs. It's like, I am probably going to get 2 weeks into the 8-minute abs and then I'm going to give up. And they know that. And so they're just going to show some fancy abs, and then you'll buy the product because it's great marketing and great copy. And it's kind of like, well, if you actually used it, you'd have a 6-pack, but you gave up after 2 weeks.
Jeff says that if you know that your product works, you have an ethical responsibility to sell the crap out of it because you know that it works, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think sometimes we put on a little bit over the top because we can not necessarily entrap. We know that it works, but we're just so confident that we make it look so good that people that don't have the work ethic and the follow through and the integrity to follow through they just buy it and they don't do anything with it. Now that's not my responsibility though.
Right. Yeah.
But it is heartbreaking
seller
to see people buy $50,000 worth of products and never do anything with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, do you think there's a way people can get better at that? Or do you think it's just something that you either have or you don't have?
I think you can definitely get better at it. I mean, you just got to it's that whole failure thing. Like, okay, I just bought this abs course and I didn't do it. I failed. I just got to get back up and try again. Implement more measures to help yourself get better at stuff like that. Read books. Like I read James Clear's Atomic Habits. That's a great book to help you change your life. I've read so many books about how to improve your habits and make yourself a better person and execute on things.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I feel like maybe that's back to the maximum pain. You will take action once you hit the maximum pain point. Maybe that's
either that or you just give up and then you don't have to worry about failure anymore. You're just going to settle for the mediocre, crappy life that you have.
Oh no. Yeah, those are some words right there. If you're listening, don't settle for the mediocre, crappy life that you have.
Hey, everyone's life is like that. Even if you've had some success, if you're not going forward, you're going backward.
Yeah. So what was it was it tiny little wins kind of, well, it's okay, I made the $1,000 and then it was, you did the course and you made $15,000 and then it was at that point you kind of had a formula or you saw like, okay, if I just keep doing this over and over, I can start making that $150,000 a year so I can feed my kids.
Honestly, for me, I believe now that baby steps are good, but I'm still not really a baby step kind of guy. I think because I'm such a natural born risk taker, I always set my sights way too high. Another great example of that would be when I bought the Jeff Walker course. I had a great first launch, $15,000, but Jeff was always talking about $1 million. He's like, okay, I do the $1 million launch, the $1 million. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to do the $1 million. So I planned for an entire year. I build this team together, and I'm paying them like nothing because I'm just convincing them to work for me because we're going to have a big payday.
We're going to get $1 million launch,
like,
and then all your hard work's going to pay off.
You guys can work for me for free now, and then when we crush it, I'll pay you big, And so we got all this. I got this amazing team together, and we did the launch, and I did like $250,000.
Okay.
And I was like
bad,
devastated.
Short.
I was like destroyed, and like I don't think I cried, but I felt like it. But
yeah, real men don't cry.
Well, you're going to get me on a side note. I just watched this guy on TikTok. He cried for 15 minutes about how hard the economy was.
Oh, jeez. Okay. Yeah.
But anyways, I was depressed. And then, it took me like 2 weeks. And I don't know if a friend told me or whatever, but it was like, dude, you just made $250,000 in a week. Had you ever done that before? No. Well, that's a win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say there's some perspective to be had there.
Right, yeah, because perspective is everything, right? So I was like disappointed because I didn't hit $1 million instead of celebrating that I made $250,000.
Yeah.
So that was an encouragement, and then what was it that kind of picked you back up and put you back on it? And then how do you make it right with those people? Like, obviously you maybe hooked them up a little bit with the $250 that you had, and
Yeah, I mean, I paid out what I could, and obviously it wasn't what I was hoping, but I think they were happy with it,
And so then with that, it's kind of like feast or famine, where it's like, okay, you plan for these big launches and it's kind of coming and going. What is your wife like as far as like her support of you and all this? Like, is it ever like, hey, dude, just go get a job and, just get a weekly paycheck, please?
The thing about my wife is she actually doesn't really know what I do and doesn't really want to get involved with it too much. Because, like, I could be in my office I work from home now, finally, after many years. But I could just be in my office sitting around playing video games all day. And she thinks I'm working. But as long as she thinks that I'm working, she's happy.
Okay,
she's like,
that's
go
good.
to your office and start making me money. And as long as I'm in there, she's happy.
No, that's awesome. So then what was it after that? So then when was like, did you just keep repeating that process over and over and keep growing? And then, where has that brought you to now?
So I've done again, just a lot of failures and mistakes. I would go from doing the launch model then to
what's the biggest failures and mistakes? Like, what can you tell us about that?
Don't ask that question.
You're
I can tell you a really fun one.
Frozen yogurt franchises.
This is a fun one, and it's involved with the launch category. Okay, this is a good one. All right, you guys will love this, and I might even get you guys to cry along with me, because tears will be streaming down my face as I say this. No, it's not that bad, but it was bad. So I did a launch, and my friend and I, we really worked hard on it. My employee, and we did really, really well. Like, this was like my second or third one after the 200. So we did a $550,000 product launch.
Wow.
Well, this is a mistake, by the way. We did a specific terms where people could get a refund if a certain trading level of requirement success on their end was not achieved. Okay. And so as a result, and we also extended that period for a long period of time. So we ended up we did $550,000 in sales, and we ended up doing like $450,000 in refunds. And it was a year later.
Oh, so you'd already spent the money.
So the money was long gone, and I owed $450,000 in refunds, and I had a lot of very unhappy people, and it was a very painful period in my business.
Wow, yeah. So how do you recover from something like that? I mean, how does that make you not want to just
this
give
is
up?
where being, all these failures that happen, I think brings a level of humility. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm kind of a loud and I'm an extroverted guy, but I try to be humble because I've been knocked on my face so many times, knocked on my butt. So I just went out and I said, look, guys, I really messed up. I did a special video. I paid a video guy to make a video for me with me on it. I said, look, I really messed up. And I know that I said I was going to do this, and I'm going to keep my word, and I'm going to do it. But I'm going to require that you guys be patient with me. And I promise you that everybody's going to get refunded that I promised. And so I did. I ended up refunding everyone, and it took about a year.
Wow, okay.
But it was a very difficult time, and it was a great lesson. And now my refund policy is so good, it's just insane.
Nice. That's awesome. So how did you get into like becoming an expert with stock trading and doing things like that? And then I guess the other question is, why don't you just use your skills as a stock trader to make all your money and not sell the knowledge on how to do it?
Those are two really good questions. So the first question, the first one is, I'll just give you a little story. Again, that came from my dad. I was involved with computers a lot. This was like in the 80s, and my aunt worked at Intel, and she taught me how to use computers when I was a kid. Right?
You had your little Radio Shack Tandy, and you're like playing
all of that stuff.
Oregon Trail, I died of dysentery.
Yeah. She would bring the computers home, and we'd like play with them and build them. So I'm really thankful for my aunt for teaching me those cutting edge skills.
Colon / /
We had DOS, DOS. Yeah. Remember DOS?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my dad was involved in stocks, but he didn't really know much about computers. He was a boomer. And so he wanted to trade online, and he asked me to help him get some stuff set up on the computer. And so when I set them all up, I was like, oh, this stock trading thing's really cool. And so I got involved in it, and I was in high school, and, you're dreaming about big money, telling my dad how to trade and all that good stuff because I knew everything.
You're 16. It's like your parents are dumb.
If you have teenagers, you know.
Yes. It's like my kid is just like, yeah, I got it, Dad. I'm like, okay. Just, you come back. You'll come back someday.
Right. You know what? It's a good thing just to be patient and to wait.
Yeah.
Wait for that moment.
That's how I tell my wife. I was like, someday they're going to realize how hard all this is that we do. And then they're going to be like, how did my parents do it?
It's so easy for them because we do it all.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, I took that skill and I actually went into the Army right after high school. And, in 1996, when I joined the Army, the pay was $800 a month.
Wow.
That's like nothing, right? And
No.
so I was a real cheapo, and I would put all of my money into the markets. Okay. Literally everything. Like all my buddies were living paycheck to paycheck. They're buying DVD players.
Yeah, you got room and board covered, but you're not going out and getting DVD players.
You get $800, but all your stuff is paid for, all your expenses. So they even give you free food, right? And
right,
my buddies are going out to eat. Yeah, I got free food, but I need to go out to eat every day.
You're like, I'll be at the mess hall eating rehydrated mashed potatoes.
Yeah, that was me. And so I put all that money away, and I had over $30,000 in just 4 years. And so I'm like 22 years old with 30 grand just from stocks.
Balling.
Yeah, I mean, that's big money. And even nowadays, that'd be worth like 60 grand in today's money. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so that's how I really got into it. And with that kind of a head start, you can do a lot. And so the way that actually selling the products came around is because, again, I was just doing it for free. I was teaching for free and online and just trying to generate some side revenue. The main source of revenue was definitely not my investing, but it was building up a really great cash flow for me. But as I was online, again, the traffic came. I started learning the marketing skills from other sources, from people that were approaching me and traders that had a lot of more knowledge than me. I was learning from them. And then we just started to do the products. And so that's kind of where that came from.
That's awesome. You're like the success story that we all read about and buy the course for, because you're like, yeah, I did it. But then, you don't always hear the failures and all the hard work and all the other things that go into it, So, and then do you feel like during this season you're pretty work-life balanced? I mean, you have 9 kids. So one of the biggest things, I always wanted more kids, but one of the things I always thought is like, how can I be intentional? The more kids I have, the less time I feel like I have, and I'm trying to be intentional with each kid.
So that's a really good question too. Wow, you're on it today, Mark. Yeah, that's a great question. And so so time management, that's really important. And I think that as you get more success in life, the more critical it is. Because the more success you have in business, the more your time is going to be required. And what usually happens, business owners believe that if I start this business, I'll be on the beach and I'll be enjoying my life, right? And I get to do some of that stuff. Like Ben's traveling around the world. That's so awesome. Just when I heard that, I was like, oh, I want to do that, But what happens to a lot of entrepreneurs is they get sucked in, and it's like a giant vacuum, and then the next thing you know, it's worse than their real job. They're like working 24/7, and they can't learn the skills to get that free time. And again, but that's got to be very intentional. So you have to look at your time, and you've got to say, look, I'm only going to work for these amount of hours, and I'm going to honor that. If I go broke, so be it. But I've got to be smart enough to figure out how to make the revenue in this period of time. And you just adjust your strategies so that you're using less time. And I will say this too, because this is probably the biggest secret of business of all time. And that is, you need awesome people, right? And so the people that I have had, like, I've just been blessed with amazing people. I got this one young guy 12, 13 years ago, and right out of high school, just trained him everything I knew. Just my secret strategy for training people is just teach them everything that you know and try to get yourself out of a job.
Yeah.
And if you get a good person that's loyal and that's hardworking and that's smart, they're going to end up being better than you. And that's kind of what's happened to me. I've had several people in my business now that just kind of handle everything because they're smarter than me and they're better than me.
Yeah, that's such a key thing. And Ben, I feel like you're good at that, is like, finding and attracting really talented people and then putting them in roles so they can be successful and kind of take things off your plate.
Let them make a lot of mistakes. The guy I'm talking about, he made some big mistakes for me, like accidentally deleting my entire email list. And then one time we did this special upsell where he was like charging everybody $1, and then he upselled him $500 on the upsell 2 weeks later, and we ended up like getting
angry customers,
$250,000 in chargebacks, and the bank shut us down. It's like, dude, you shouldn't have done that.
That is how you learn, man. I feel like a lot of the big mistakes that I hear about from new employees have to do with mailing lists. Like, I sent out a test email to 500,000 people, or, like all those kind of things. And you're like, oh, it just makes you cringe thinking about it. But yeah, I agree. In my experience, it's like, I forget what study it was, but I remember reading a book about this too, and that if you feel comfortable when you're learning, you're probably not learning as quickly as you should be. And it's like this idea of like a little bit of discomfort is good when you're first in a role, because if it's too comfortable learning, you could be learning much faster and learning stuff that you're not going to forget, because when you do make mistakes, those are things you actually remember, as long as you don't want to stress yourself out on purpose. But with some reason, I think learning lessons from experience can be even better than just having the head knowledge.
Yeah, and Ben, you know what else I think too about the uncomfort thing is it's good to put your people in that. Don't babysit them and don't do their work and don't like overshadow them too much. Make them think that you're not a great boss because you leave them out alone a little bit, because that pressure, right, is what's forming them. And if you get somebody that folds under pressure, or they start whining and they start posting TikTok videos of them crying about how mean their boss is, like, you realize, okay, this is not the person for me. So one of my mentors has taught me, he said, you know what? One of the secrets is hire slow, fire fast, which means take your time to find the right person. And then if they're not right, get rid of them quick.
Yeah, I've had to learn that the hard way. Ben's been there for me for some tough ones.
Well, I'll tell you, I think the hardest part even to this day for me as being an entrepreneur is letting people go. That is hard for me.
Yeah, it's like for me at least, it's like I know what impact that will have on them, and so then I feel bad. Like, but then in some ways, it's like, is it my responsibility to feel bad? I don't know. But then I don't want to be a jerk, And
if you got a team though, and you got that one person that's not carrying his weight, it's not just because I'm weak and I don't want to fire somebody, I'm not going to make the whole team suffer. I'm not going to hurt the vision of what we're trying to accomplish suffer because of one person.
Have you built your business up via contractors? Do you hire any W-2? Like, what strategy have you applied in your business as far as that comes? Because in our industries, it's kind of 50-50 where, with creatives, a lot of times you're hiring freelancers, or like Ben, he's built kind of a business off of W-2, like local type employees. But then I have some friends who have companies that's like just all remote workers, so what has kind of been your strategy in that, and what have you found to be successful? And you said you work remote 100% of the time now, so that's cool.
Yeah, so I personally prefer the employees, and even now with the remote, I'm still got actual employees and like real workers, like payroll type stuff.
Yeah. Real workers, all those 1099s, fake.
I do a mix though too, but like I have had a hard time with the 1099, like as far as getting people that take a lot of responsibility. If it's just a small job, like I need you to be a graphic guy or a video editor or something like that, that's no problem. But for me, like with me teaching people everything, it's good to spend a lot of time with them. And I've only been remote for the last year or so.
Okay.
Like I even tried to hold off even during COVID, try to not do that, just because I like to get that thing that happens from spending a lot of time with people, where you're creating little disciples, people that think like you. Yeah.
That's really cool. So, what do you see the future of the industry going, especially with AI and a bunch of other tools like that I feel like are popping up overnight, like for copywriting and even for trading and all these other kind of things? What do you see the role of AI and how you think it's going to kind of change even online sales and marketing? Because almost in some ways now anybody can be a thought leader. If you go into ChatGPT and be like, pretend you're Frank Kearns, now write me a 7-sequence email, list, and go from there.
Yeah, I think AI is putting out, it's going to basically flood the entire internet with tons of content. We're already seeing that even now with some of these video AI services that are creating videos. It's pretty remarkable. So I think the key is going to be systemizing it and using it to save time, because again, we talked about time management, how important that is. And so AI can, for someone that's disciplined with AI and has a system for it, it's really powerful, right? I will admit that I have not written an email since ChatGPT came out. So we're going on like a year and a half. I have not written an email. And so, but I'm pretty good at it because I plug it into exactly the way that I want to be. But the point that I'm trying to say is that I think human connection is going to be very powerful.
Yeah.
Right. So becoming a voice and letting your real personality come out is going to set you apart. And being transparent and real is really what people want, because people nowadays need human connection more than ever before. It's so lacking right now. Yeah.
Yeah, that totally, that I feel the same way. I feel that really the future is robots, AI, but human connection is going to be that much more important. And you kind of already see it with social media over the past decade. People have higher rates of depression and feeling lonely and all these other kind of things when social media has technically brought more connection to people. But what kind of connection?
I mean, mental health levels are at the worst that they've ever been, ever. Yeah. And, I keep going to that guy who was crying on the phone. He's like 40 years old. And one of the guys said in the comment, he says, literally, dude, all of your problems would be solved if you would just put your phone down, And it's like, when I heard that, I was like, dude, that's so true. Yeah. Just put the phone away. Jeez. Like, that's the problem with all your mental health. Go hang out with some people. Go to the park. Like, your world is not going to fall apart if you spend the afternoon in the park.
Yeah, that's so true. That is so true. So, have any of your kids joined the business? Have you created a exit strategy for yourself and a succession plan for them to take over? You got 26-year-olds, so it's have they been interested in any of the entrepreneurial endeavors that the dad's into?
So the 26-year-olds, they're twins, and they have not shown a ton of interest. They do a few things here and there, but just not really their style, not the entrepreneurship thing. The next one in line would be my son, and he's 17, and he's really interested in making his own way and being an entrepreneur. I just don't know if he wants to do it for me, because he's still at that age where he's like, I'm just going to do this YouTube thing, and I'm going to start my own business, and what you're doing is just so old-fashioned.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, Yeah, I feel like it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, it's probably good to pave your own way in some ways, and then eventually I'll be like, okay, well, maybe you've made some of the mistakes I could learn from instead of doing it all from scratch. There'll probably be that point. Even though they're probably good for them to try to learn on their own, I'm guessing at some point they'll be like, hey, Dad, so got myself in a pickle. What would you do?
And I think that's a sign of maturity. Like, that's another one of my big secrets is that I have mentors for everything, right? Like, I just love to get feedback. I always get advice, and just because of all those mistakes and stuff I've made. So that's something that hopefully they'll learn. I went to the dentist yesterday, and the dentist I went to the chair, he was super young, and he's like, he looked like he was 20. And he's like, you can call me Jordan because my dad's the main doctor, but I don't want to go as Dr. So-and-so because you'll get confused with my dad. And as soon as I thought, wow, the dad must be doing a great job to get his son to get in there so early. And then the second thing is I just had so much confidence. Usually I don't have a lot of confidence with young people.
Yeah.
But when I knew that he was under his dad's mentorship, I'm like, I'm totally cool with you now.
What do you consider a mentor? Is that somebody that you meet with for coffee? Or I know a lot of people are like, I feel like my mentor is Donald Miller or other people that I find online, Hermosi or whoever that are like, I'm watching their YouTube videos.
That's like an educator. I don't look at that as a mentor. I'm talking somebody that you can hang out with, have coffee, do a phone call, Zoom call, and just get to say, hey, look, here's my situation. What would you do here? And this is what I'm thinking. What's your thoughts on this? Where you can just get your download. And really, one of the things, too, is for me is I'm a big believer in servant leadership. And I'm a big believer in adding value. And so I love to find people that are awesome, like super awesome, and then like try to make them even more awesome by serving them. And then what happens is I learn through that service, I learn skills that I would have never learned before, and I get access to people that I would never had access to before.
Yeah.
That's great. What are some examples of ways you've served people like that and built those relationships?
For one is a really big source of service for me would be leaders in my church, right? And so I have served my pastor, right? And I've helped him do things in the ministry to grow. And he's took me under his wing and taught me a lot of stuff. Actually, a lot of my business skills that I have has come from that that relationship.
That's cool. How is faith in business? Like, how do you? I'm always curious to hear how people, especially entrepreneurs who are faith driven, it's like, where do you draw the line of trusting God in what you're doing and helping grow your business, bringing the right people, and then you putting in the work and trying to white knuckle and control something?
Oh boy, that's a good question. That's a really good question.
Because I feel like that's a struggle for a lot of Christian entrepreneurs, because there's an element to, like, on the worldly side of things, it's like, well, you just need to write the right copy and the sequence of emails and this ad, and you need to connect with people emotionally in this way, and then you'll get the business. And then on the other side of things, there's an element to where, especially as a Christian, there's like, all right, well, God is in control of everything, and that, he owns 1,000 cattle on 1,000 hills and has endless resources, and that you can maybe have a desire, but he's going to guide your steps. And so, because I think there's been times in my life where I just thought, like, okay, I'm going to just do things my way, and I'm going to just try to hack the system. And then it's always just failed. And then I'll get some random call from somebody who knew somebody who called me, and I'm like, why did I waste all this time and energy trying to do this thing? And then it's just like, I could have just trusted and, had less headache and stress.
It's really, that's such a good question, because I feel like it's a little bit different for Christian business people than for non-Christian. And maybe you'd actually have to be a Christian to understand this, but I feel like God will maybe block your path where he might not block someone else's path, just because you're committing your ways to the ways of the Lord, and you're saying, Lord, I want to serve you. Lord, I want to do what you want me to do. And so if I go outside of that, the Lord's discipline will come upon me, which is not a bad thing. It's a training thing. It's a good thing. But I feel like there has been times where I've been blocked a little bit, and I look at that as a good thing, but because I'm trying to do things in my own strength and not having the faith and not trying to honor God with what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. I think that's an acceptable answer. Well, listen, it's been great having you on the show, Casey. Thanks for hanging out with Ben and I and just sharing your journey. And I know that there's some nuggets of goodness and truth in what you shared, and our audience will go away with a lot of value. Ben, what are your takeaways from today's episode?
All right, I've got 6. All right, you ready? To succeed,
Yes.
You must take action. If you don't follow the steps, you won't get anywhere. Don't settle for a mediocre life. To be a good father, time management is essential. The more successful you are, the more important time management is. Finally, you need people who are smarter and better than you on your team. Good stuff.
Yes.
Ben, did you plug those into ChatGPT, or you come up with those on your own?
That was all Ben GPT right there.
Ben GTP, everybody. Well, hey, Casey, where can people connect with you, find out more information about what you're doing, how you can help them in their businesses or help them start a business? What's the best place?
You can go to my website, which is tradingstrategyguides.com, and there's a lot of resources on there, articles. You could listen to my podcast, which is available there, or order my book, which is called The Complete Trading System. All of that is available at my website.
Awesome. And then starting off next week, we always like to leave people with one tip of advice, one thing of advice to say, all right, Monday morning, focus on doing this one thing to help you grow personally or in your business. And what would that one thing be that you tell people?
The one thing I would say is get off of your phone, get away from the email, and just sit down with a notepad and just start your day intentionally.
All right. Start your day intentionally. What is the Road Less Stupid? I don't know if you've read that book, but it is very good, and good. He constantly talks about spending time thinking. So I love that. All right, well, hey, thanks so much for listening to The Friday Habit. If you go to thefridayhabit.com, you can find show notes for this episode. At the very bottom of the page, you can find our guide to the Friday Habit system, which is going to help you spend less time working in your business and more time working on your business.
Yep, and if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave us a review, send us an email if you have someone you'd like us to interview or a topic you'd like us to cover, and you can send that to hello@thefridayhabit.com.
That's right, and until next time, live every day like it's Friday.